Hello, everyone. This is your host, Deborah Poneman, and I'd like to welcome you to our call with today's guest, Dr. Dain Heer. Dr. Dain is an international speaker, best-selling author, and the co-creator of Access Consciousness, a practical set of tools, techniques, and philosophies that allow you to create dynamic change in every area of your life. Dr. Dain not only hosts a regular radio show called Conversations in Consciousness, he also appears regularly on Dr. Pat, the World Puja Network, Voice of America, and has been a guest on hundreds of nationally syndicated radio shows. Dain's perspectives on personal transformation are unlike anything else in the world, as he invites people to greater conscious awareness from total allowance, caring, humor, and a deep inner knowing. He's been sharing his life-changing ideas on money, bodies, the future, healing, sex, relationships, and everything in between with tens of thousands of people globally for the past 13 years with, I might add, extraordinary results. He now travels the world facilitating advanced classes in consciousness and has developed a unique energetic transformation process called the energetic synthesis of being, where he teaches people to tap into and recognize their own abilities and knowing. The energetic transformation that is possible is fast and truly dynamic. And today you will discover, first of all, you're going to receive a series of keys, tools, and perspectives that can show you how to start creating a truly limitless living from a completely different space called consciousness. This will be a totally different way of exploring what you're capable of, and Dain will be facilitating, empowering you to access what you know using the verbal clearing process from Access Consciousness. That transformation is going to be very fast. And you will come out of judgment of you for being as different as you are and begin to acknowledge that in truth, no limitation isn't real. Oh, I got to say that again. No limitation isn't real. It is all a creation. This is the beginning of stepping into the greatness you truly be. And you'll also experience the energy, vibration, and resonance of consciousness, where everything exists and nothing is judged, including you. Wow. Okay. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to all of that. And before we dive into my questions, first of all, welcome. I'm so happy that you're here. I almost forgot to welcome you. I was so excited about getting going.
Right. Hi, Deborah. Thanks for having me. What a great pleasure to be here.
Oh, gosh. Okay. I got to calm down, right? So,
well, maybe not. Maybe you just have to amp it up.
Actually, that's probably true with you. I know that that's probably the right thing to do. So before I dive into all of my questions, I would love for you to share a little bit about your journey and what you believe to be the major turning points that allowed you to manifest this unbelievable, not only the body of knowledge, but this exponential growth of Access Consciousness and your teachings all over the world. Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Well, you know what? A lot of people live all kinds of different lives, but for me, it's like 13 years ago, I was at a place where I was going to kill myself if things didn't change. And I was one of those seekers, one of these people that knew that life should be able to be different, knew that life should be able to be happier, knew that there should be great possibilities available, and yet what I kept seeing in front of me was exactly not that. And so I was reading books, I was going to seminars, and I got to this point one day after going to a seminar and thinking I'd finally found the answer to happiness and the answer to feeling good about myself. And by Wednesday morning, I woke up and I was like, man, I am buried again. I feel no better than I did before this thing. And I woke up and I finally said, universe, you know what? I'm tired of being depressed. I'm tired of being unhappy. I've had enough. Either my life truly changes or I'm out of here, period. And literally, I said, universe, you got 6 months or I'm killing myself. And literally a week later, I saw an ad for Access Consciousness. Well, I was so furious because the ad said, all of life comes to me with ease and joy and glory, and it said Access Consciousness, and I threw the paper away in an angry huff. And the paper comes out once a week in Santa Barbara, and so I was leafing through it the following week, and I see this ad again. Only thing I saw in the paper, and it was the tiniest little ad you've ever seen in your life. And it said, "Access, all of life comes to me with ease and joy and glory." And I saw it, and I got angry again, but I remembered that long ago I had learned that if you love it or hate it, there's something there for you. You just don't know what it is yet. And so because I wanted to kill the person who wrote the ad, I called her and asked, "What do you do?" And she said, "Well, I do access consciousness, and it's a way of changing anything in your life." And I'm like, "Okay, so what are you going to do for me?" And she said, "Well, I don't know. Let's get together. We'll do a session and see what changes." And literally after an hour, and actually she did this process with me, and I started giggling at the very beginning of it, and something called the access consciousness bars, and I started giggling and giggling and giggling, and had the first sense of peace I'd had in almost 3 years. And it was the first time in my life knowing that everything was okay, everything always had been, and everything always would be. And I truly never contemplated killing myself again. So it truly changed everything in my life from that first moment. And the reason I do what I do is because I want people to know that that's possible. Not just that it's possible, because I knew it was possible before. I knew it should be possible, but I want them to be able to actually live it, be able to actually wake up with that state and that awareness. And if you don't have that awareness and that peace that I'm talking about, well, then guess what? There's a way to change it, and that's the important part.
Whoa. Okay, and I know that's what you teach, and I know that you can wake up just looking forward to the day of all possibilities and feeling expanded instead of contracted with what you teach. So I want to start out with just the basics, because more and more people are talking about consciousness these days, but I'd like to know what consciousness is for you.
Well, let's talk about you alluded to the definition that we have of it from Access Consciousness in your, as you were speaking at the beginning, which is where everything exists and nothing is judged. And I think that's a really good starting point of awareness of what consciousness could be. Because for me, part of the reason I was so depressed and unhappy so much in my life is because I saw that people should be able to get along. I saw that people should be able to be kind to themselves and other people. And I saw that we should be able to all support each other and care for each other and nurture each other and be there for each other in a way that I just did not see showing up at all on the planet. And so for me, it's got several aspects to it, but one of them is, if you can imagine that peace that you get when you go out in nature, after you've been out there for maybe 45 minutes to a day, however long it takes you personally for the weight of the world to come off of your shoulders, if you can recognize that sense of space and peace, what consciousness gives you is actually the capacity to live that all the time, no matter what's going on. I'll give you an example. The other day I was traveling with actually the founder of Access Consciousness, who's now my business partner and best friend, and we were coming back from lunch one day, and we were on the freeway, and we were going about 75 miles an hour, and somebody slams on their brakes in front of us to get over into this non-moving right-hand lane. And all of a sudden, it was like where time slows down, and it feels like almost being in the movie The Matrix, where you're like, you see the bullets come at you and you just dodge, and so I hit the brakes, I swerved left, right. I made the person that was behind me get over, that was in the next lane, get over to the far lane so I could occupy that lane, and we kept on driving. And I looked at him and he looked at me and we went, wow, we just created a miracle, didn't we? Yep, because nowhere in any other universe was there any possibility except running into the car that had just slammed on its brakes. I mean, by the laws of physics, there was no way to be not running into that car, and yet it didn't happen. But this is sort of, and I know a lot of people have done this in their lives, and I want to acknowledge that that's part of consciousness, if you will. It's part of the capacity you have. It's part of the awareness you have. But what if more of your life could be magic rather than less of it being magic? I think so many of us know that magic should exist, that know that possibilities should exist, and yet nobody's ever given us the practical, actualizable tools to make it happen in our living, breathing lives. There are lots of people out there who are like, oh, you can bend this spoon and you can walk on coals, and those are all cool, but what does that have to do with the depression you feel when you go to open your bank statement? What does that have to do with the fact that your kids are rowdy and you don't know what to do to change it? What does that have to do with the fact that you wake up depressed? I love those things because they open up your awareness that possibilities should exist, but then what's required is to have the tools to create those possibilities in the world, to actually bring them into the world and actualize them in the world.
Okay, and that's what access is. But so this thing about consciousness, just so that I could get it really clear, like when you gave that example of what you did when you were on the freeway with Gary, is it that you accessed a field that you're now used to accessing, that we can all begin to become used to accessing spontaneously? Because it didn't seem to me that you thought about it. It was something that just the universe conspired to keep you safe. The universe conspired to have everybody in that situation be safe. And what you're saying is that we can all access that field, and most of us are not accessing it yet.
Yeah, exactly. And we're not taught to. We're not given the tools that actually make our consciousness a valuable product here. For a long time, it's like consciousness was the least valuable product on the planet. And it's changing, and I'm so grateful for that, and so grateful to be part of creating a work, creating a body of work called Access Consciousness, because it literally is the access to that, to being able to actually be in that state that creates that possibility. And the reason I use that as an example is because it's undefinable. I could give you thousands upon thousands of practical examples that using the same tools have created, but it really is. It is exactly like you said. It's accessing a field and accessing a state of what is your natural awareness that you should be able to have and be all the time.
All right. So one of my favorite statements that I've heard you say in Access is that it's about the mind, because most of us, we try to intellectualize, we try to analyze, and we're more left brain, more linear. And one of the things that I've noticed about Access, even when I talk to you or talk to other facilitators of Access Consciousness, I find that my strong analytical mind starts slipping away from me, which is a little bit disconcerting when you are a person like myself, that I like to have control and I use my mind to do that. But you have said that the mind is a terrible thing, waste it, which I think is hysterical. But are you saying that in order to spontaneously access this field, we have to stop using our mind so much? I mean, what is so gosh darn wrong with the mind?
Well, the thing is, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just kind of inferior to your awareness. The difficulty is we live in a reality where we've been taught, if I think, therefore I am, which is one of the greatest difficulties we have, unfortunately, because what happens is we've been taught that our mind is the source of awareness, our mind is a source of creation, and our mind is a source of anything but limitation. See, the way your mind works is it's like a big card catalog. Remember in the old libraries where they would have card catalogs where you had to look up your books? Remember those days?
I do.
Well, I know, me too. And your mind is like a big card catalog with almost infinite, with a huge number of drawers in it. And in it, it's got every piece of information you've ever come across that it has decided is okay and not okay. And if it comes across a new piece of information that is not already judged as okay, it puts it in the reject pile. And so your mind is not a creative source and contribution to you. It's a more limited source than anything else. You, the being, are actually the creative source. Your mind actually gets in the way of you, the being, being able to be that creative source that you are. So when I say your mind is a dangerous thing, waste it, that's where I'm coming from. Because rather than allowing a source, something that is designed to create judgment, to run our lives, let us instead access that which goes beyond judgment to create our lives.
Wow, okay. So how do you do that?
Exactly. And, well, number one, there's a ton of tools, which is one part of it, which I think is a really important part. And in addition, there's within some of the classes that we've delivered in Access, there's an energy that I don't know. It's like if you've ever been having a bad day and you've been around a little kid, for example, that was happy, and all of a sudden your energy changed, and you forgot about your bad day and you forgot about your mopiness. Well, that's one of the other things that is present in a lot of the Access Consciousness classes and the products that we have available. There's actually an energy there, and I want to say that because people have said so many times to me, "Oh my gosh, I listen to this, I just feel better," and they're like, "Are you like doing something to me?" I'm like, "No, I'm actually just presenting you with the energy you are and helping you with the choice to choose it." And that's what I think is really one of the things that we require is somebody to introduce us to the energy of what's possible, because we know somewhere in our world, we know this is something I've always wanted to choose. And, the lightness, the possibilities. And when we see somebody else choosing it, or when we get introduced to the energy of it, then it's like, oh, yeah, okay, that's what and then you start heading in that direction again. So how do you get there? Great question. So one of the first things I would say is the most basic tool of access is what's true for you will always make you feel lighter. A lie always makes you feel heavier. So when somebody says something true for you, it lightens up your world. When somebody tells you a lie, it makes your world really heavy. And what most of us have been doing is we've had so much heaviness that we have been walking around with, trying to somehow make it true, rather than going, wait a minute, if it's heavy, it's a lie. Let me focus on something else. So take your focus off of the heavy and realize that anything that's heavy is actually a lie for you. And anyone that says anything to you, if it makes you feel heavy, it's a lie. If you read something and it makes you feel heavy, it's a lie. For you, it may not be a lie for the person saying it, but for you, it's not true. It's not what's true for you. And as you start to look in your life for the things that are true for you, you start to create a totally different possibility and more lightness.
Wow. So this heavier light, you can use this if somebody, for example, says, do you want to go to the movies? And you can ask yourself, does that feel heavy or light? And it might be really light for them, but for you, you'd rather sit home and, watch the sunset or something. So you can ask, does that feel heavy or light?
Yeah, exactly. And you'll start, and it may take a while to get it, because nobody's ever taught us this. Nobody's ever taught us. And here's one of the reasons why our mind is so viciously destructive, is because nobody's ever taught us that we know. We always look to our judgments of something to try to determine whether we should choose it or not. Okay, well, is this right? Is this a good thing to do? Is this what my mom wants me to do? Is this what my dad wants me to do? I mean, how many relationships do people end up in because they think it's what their parents require of them or desire of them, or because it will, fulfill someone else's criterion? So what this is about, accessing this light and heavy, is the idea that you know. One of the taglines about Access is empowering you to know that you know. And literally, if we could just get that, if we got nothing else, if you got nothing else out of today other than the awareness that you know, and you know everything, you know far greater than you've ever given yourself credit for. And if somebody can ask you the right question, then you can actually access that knowing. And there are people that say, oh, well, don't ask questions, just know what you know. And my question is, well, how are you ever going to get to know what you know? If you don't ask a question, what happens is what you do is you are left with the card catalog filled with all those yeses and nos, rights and wrongs. If you ask a question, you can open up a totally different possibility than was ever there before.
I just noticed something about that statement, empowering people to know that they know. In my mind, it always said empowering people to know what they know, but that's completely different. You're empowering people to know the fact that they know everything.
Yes, exactly. To know that they know gives them the capacity to have everything at their fingertips and have everything change. If I were listening, I'd be like, but wait a minute, why does my life look like such crap? And I got to say, that was the question I asked years ago when people would tell me, oh, but you're an infinite being. Oh, but you're a spiritual being. Oh, but God loves you. I'm like, well, then why is God not giving me enough money to pay my darn rent? You know what I mean? And so,
right.
So people out there listening going, yeah, but if I know everything, why does my life suck? Well, because have you ever acknowledged that you know everything, or do you act as though you don't? And so part of what this is actually getting not only the awareness that you know, but also the capacity to actually access that knowing in a tangible way that changes your life. Hence, the light and heavy as our starting point. The next thing you want to do is actually start asking questions. Most people in their lives are headed in one direction. They've got this thing they've decided and they're headed for it, but it's not working, but they don't know what else to do. And it's as though what they're doing is they've been headed in that direction so long and they've been walking the path for so long that they've worn these ruts that are now walls to the left and the right, and they can't see over, can't see around, can't see through them, can't see between them. And yet when you ask a question, it's like doors open in these walls to the left and the right. And it's like they have light and space and possibilities behind them that you never saw before. The universe is, your way of accessing the other stuff that the universe has for you is by asking questions. Hey, a great question can be, how does it get any better than this? If you ask it when something good happens, it'll make it even better. If you ask it when something bad happens, it'll make it even better. So you make the good better and the bad better. How does it get any better than that?
It doesn't get any better than that. And I love...
that's the one you don't want to say.
no, it does. It always gets better than that is what I meant.
Right. See, and then we can keep asking. But that's the way, see, and most people have said, most people as a way of exclaiming how wonderful something is it doesn't get any better than this. And my question is, what if instead you went, wow, this is so cool, how does it get any better than this? Would that create even more? And that's what I'm interested in.
Yes, and I've been corrected before when I said, does it get any better than this? And it was, no. How does it get any better than this? Because then the answers come to you.
Yeah, and your awareness comes to you of what else is possible. And even rather than even looking for an answer when you ask the question, if you'd actually allow your awareness to show up, it's not an answer because it's not a conclusion like this is the only one. And it is, in the sense, you'd call it an answer, but it's actually an awareness that will actually lead to more and more and more if you let it. If you let it continue to contribute to you, it's the way of actually getting the universe to contribute to you in the way that you always knew was possible, the way you always knew should exist, and the way it now actually can.
I did hear you speak in person a couple times, and I remember you saying, if you can ask a question, you can have anything. If you have an answer, you can't have anything but your answer.
Yes, exactly that. And that's,
did I quote that right? Because now I think about it. When I come to a conclusion, I always want to switch it to a question because I don't want to just have that answer. I want infinite possibilities.
Yes, and that I'm with you. And it's so funny because we've been taught from the time we were little kids, because we were made so wrong for asking questions. The teacher would look at us and go, oh, well, you didn't understand, you didn't study, you didn't do your homework, or you're stupid, rather than realizing that asking questions is a child's natural way of being in the world. And actually asking questions has been our way of opening doorways ever since we were born, and then we get it made wrong to such a degree and such an extent that we stop. So really, like you said, let's look for infinite possibilities. Let's look for things that continue to expand and grow rather than taking our answer and stopping with that. Because nothing that doesn't match your answer or your conclusion can come into your awareness even based on the laws of the universe.
Wow, that's a scary thing. It really is.
Right?
How limited we have been living when we are looking for the answer that only fits our paradigm. That is really a scary thing.
That's where the extremely fixed point of view people out in the world are living now, because they have only allowed themselves to have their answer, and they're taking it to such an extreme that they exclude every other possibility that could exist. It's part of the reason we have the wars we do. It's part of the reason we have so many of the things on our planet that we do, is this one thing people have not allowed themselves to function from question. Okay,
now in the bullets, when I said what you were going to speak about today, you said that you were going to talk about the clearing statement. And I would love for our listeners to understand how if you do have a fixed point of view, you could actually clear it with the clearing statement. Is that correct?
Yes, and this is one of the most wonderful things about Access. For me, I look at it as this magic wand. It's like literally this way of changing anything that you want to change. So truly, if you have an answer, what ends up happening is nothing else can come into your world. But if you want to change that, all you've got to do is ask the universe, hey, you know what? I don't even know when I came up with this answer, but wherever I did, I'm willing to go back to the point of creation or the point of destruction of wherever this started and undo it from there. So basically it works like this. The clearing statement is, it literally, the primary part of the clearing statement is something called POC and POD, your two best friends if you choose to use them. POC is the point of creation. POD is the point of destruction, and they're immediately preceding your decision to lock some limitation in place. So imagine if you have this thing that's this limitation in your life that's kind of like an oak tree on the road of your life. And on the one side you have a mountain, and on the other side you have a sheer cliff dropping off to death. And here's this big old oak tree that's covering up everything, and you can't go through it. You can't go around it on either side. And now you're like, what am I going to do now? And you figure, well, okay, I could go get an axe and I could chop it up and take forever chopping it and make sure that somehow I try to get all the pieces so it doesn't regrow by the time I come back this way. Or imagine if you could take a leaf, follow it down the branch, follow it down to the trunk, and go back in time to where the seed started and vaporize the seed of that limitation, that oak tree of limitation, out of existence. It would just disappear. And that's what this clearing statement does. So what it does, it literally goes back and changes the past, which changes the present, which of course changes the future. And the beauty of it is, before I came to Access, I used to do visualization to try to clear things. And I say try because it took a long time, and I was only successful about 35% of the time. And it took me 45 minutes to do one of these points of creation. Now with this clearing statement, I do 1,000 in a few seconds, literally. And it doesn't matter whether the limitation was created last week or 100 billion years ago. All that matters is you going, hey, you know what? I've had enough of this. I'm not going to choose this anymore. I'm going to choose something greater. I'm going to stop functioning from unawareness. I'm actually going to start to be present in my life. I'm going to step into my life and actually have a presence and an awareness that will allow me to create what I would like to create and the world I'd like to create. Because from my point of view, unless those of us that are the seekers of the world, those of us desiring something different, actually step up and be what we're truly capable of, not what we think we're not capable of, unless we step up and do that, I think we've got about 15 years of sustainable living left on the planet before it's too late to reverse the damage that we're doing. It's time for us to step up and be us and to have the tools to do it.
Wow. So that's a pretty powerful statement, and I tend to agree with you. And how we use that POC and POD is that when we make a statement that is limiting, we could just POC and POD it, and that will evaporate the seed. And I have to tell you, in all honesty, Dain, when I first heard the clearing statement, I thought, you've got to be kidding, because it just sounded so ridiculous to me that you could evaporate these things that have been not only with you in this lifetime, but thousands of other lifetimes. And I was like, it was like a roll your eyes moment. And the startling thing is that it works. The startling thing is that it just blew my paradigm just right out the window of something so seemingly crazy could be so powerful. And I find that when I use the clearing statement, I feel an energetic shift immediately. I mean, the words are spoken, and I just feel the energy change. And I've never experienced something so profound before.
I'm with you, and I got to say, I had the same point of view when I heard this clearing statement. I was like, really? Are you kidding me? But what happened was I started using it because the person that did this first session on me, what she did was she gave me a tool every single week. And I got to tell you, when you're truly, for me, I was at the place where I didn't think anything was going to work. I literally thought I was going to get the freedom of being able to end it all and get out of here. That was 13 years ago. Apparently I was incorrect. And so, But what she did is she gave me a tool every single week. She said, okay, take this tool and use it. Take this tool and use it. And I would use it for a week, and we'd get back together, and we'd do another one of these sessions. And the space of my life would expand again, and then again, and then again. And I went, wow. So one week she gave me this clearing statement, and she said, look, just use it on everything that comes up. I'm like, yeah, but what if I don't know what it is? She's like, exactly. And I went, what? She's like, just try it. Just play with it. I'm not even going to tell you how you're supposed to use it. Just use it on every energy that comes up that feels like, and see which ones it changes and see which ones it doesn't, because we got other tools for those. And I was like, wait a minute. So you're telling me if I walk out there into the world, and because what I had been telling her in the session prior to that, I said, look, this has been amazing. I said, I've got more space than I have had probably my whole life. I said, but what happens is I'll have this space, and then all of a sudden it feels like something smacks me in the head. And she went, well, just try using this clearing statement on it. I'm like, okay. So I went out that week, and I did it, and it was like the same thing you're talking about. I'm like, it just started changing things, and I was like, oh, my gosh. Like, I noticed a change instantly. And I just realized that, okay, this is not what I thought it was. This is not the way I thought the world could be, but I'm sure glad it can be this way. So I'm with you, and I totally understand. And, well, here we are being kind of happy because we're using it, so I think that's kind of a good indication.
Yeah, kind of happy. And I have to tell everybody, if they ever have a chance to be with Dain in person, you'll see what kind of happy looks like.
You're very kind. Thank you.
Oh, boy. Well, do you want to at least say the clearing statement so everybody will know the crazy thing that we're talking about, so they could roll their eyes and then they'll be curious about how to start using it?
Yes. Okay, so here it is. It's right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Now, every one of those is short form for something. Like, can I just say a few bits about each part of this really quick, Deborah? Would that be okay?
Sure.
Okay, so the right and wrong is your judgments about whatever it is that we're unlocking, good or bad. And your good judgments often hold you in place even more than your bad judgments, because your good judgments, whenever you decide or judge that you've got something good and right, you certainly don't want to let it go. The stuff you've decided you have wrong or judged you have wrong, you're definitely willing to let go. So this is getting both sides of the judgments. The POC and POD we already talked about. It's the point of creation or the point of destruction, whether you created a limitation or destroyed a wonderful thing about you to create limitation. It'll go back and undo it. All nine stand for 9 layers of this thing, so we get the biggest pile of poo out of the way for every scoop we take, because we know if we get enough poop out of the way, we're going to find the pony called you under there somewhere. So that's the all 9. Shorts stands for the meaningful and the meaningless, the punishments and the rewards. So what's meaningless about this? What happens for most of us in our lives is when something, there are lots of things that are actually somewhat important to us that we value, but we go, oh, no, I can't make that meaningful because that's just inappropriate. Like, for example, when you're somebody who normally is one of these people who squeezes the toothpaste tube at the end, and you're in a relationship with somebody and they squeeze it in the middle, and you're like, every time, but you think, oh, I can't be upset about that. So you shove it out into the universe. You're like, that's got to be. I can't make that meaningful. That's meaningless. I can't make that meaningful. That's meaningless. And finally, one day, 6 months later, they squeeze the toothpaste tube in the middle and you just go ballistic. It's because of all that stuff you tried to make meaningless that wasn't, and in so doing, dishonored you. That's another thing that we're clearing with this clearing statement. And then the boys, now this is an interesting thing because a lot of people have been peeling the layers of the onion. Have you ever done any work where they told you have to peel the layers of the onion to get to the core of the issue?
I hear that all the time.
Right? And you peel and you peel and you peel and you peel and you peel, and all you get is tears? Well, that's because it's not actually an onion. It's this energetic structure called a nucleated sphere, and that's what the boys represents in the clearing statement. So with every time we run this, we're unlocking those nucleated spheres, that sphere outside of a sphere, outside of another one, outside of another one, outside of another one, those like nested Russian dolls that keep your limitations going on forever. So let's do this. So everybody listening, all the issues that you've been working on in this lifetime, all the issues you've been working on in your various lifetimes where you peeled and peeled and peeled and peeled and peeled and peeled and all you got were tears, will you now destroy, meaning take the structure of limitation and undo it, and uncreate, meaning take your creative energy out of creating limitations so you can create more possibilities. Will you now destroy and uncreate all of those nucleated spheres, please? I'm going to assume that's a yes. Right, wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. And, okay, well, apparently people have a lot of that going on. Okay, so that just that one thing, so do you notice a bit of energy with that one, Deborah?
Absolutely.
And that is one of these where it's like that's so big for people. And if they can just start to get that, you know what, it's not your fault. The limitations that you've been holding in place, it's not your fault. You've been brought up in a reality that doesn't work, with tools that don't work, with people who did their best with the tools they had available, but so many of them have such woefully inadequate tools that they couldn't give you a way to create a life of joy and ease and abundance and greatness that you know you desire. And on the one hand, we ought to look and go, wow, you know what? I'm actually really grateful for that because I've demanded that I'll do it on my own. And for those of you that have demanded that you'll do it on your own because you didn't get it from other people, even those of you that did get it from other people, you lucky sons of guns, I think it's wonderful. Well, what if now's the time to actually be able to step into having what you would like your life to be and being able to undo the things that don't allow it?
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good to me, too. So we can go anywhere you want, process anything you want, or anything else. What sounds like fun?
For me right now?
Uh-huh.
Well, you want to know what sounds like fun? Well, do you, one of the things that I would love to be able to step out of, and I know that you talk about this a lot in Access, is judgment.
Oh, isn't that the truth? So let's do this. So here's the interesting thing. One of the things that I've been trying to get to or looking at getting to for many, many years in doing this Access work and in doing the work that I've been doing in the world is getting people to actually realize that they create. And one of the things I've realized is that people use their creation oftentimes to invoke limitation. And I know that sounds weird. You hear those words and your brain fries usually. But what happens is literally they use their creations to invoke limitation. It's almost like they use what they create to try to create a prayer or a request for something limited. So it's a way that they use their creative energies against them. What's an example? Well, somebody who gets in a relationship where after they're in the relationship, they're less happy. They feel less connected to them, less connected to people they care about. They feel abused. That's a way of invoking limitation by using the creation of relationship. So let's do this. So what creation are you using to invoke the judgments of you are choosing? Everything that is, will you now destroy and uncreate it, please?
Yes.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. So what creation are you using to invoke the judgment you are choosing? Everything that is, will you destroy and uncreate it, please?
Yes.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. Now, why am I running this more than once? Because it would be wonderful if you could say one sentence and eliminate all the judgment you've been creating. But we've been doing that for far too long. We think it's far too real to us. So what happens is we do this clearing statement over and over and over, sometimes on certain things, because they're so deeply entrenched, but it gets a layer off every single time. And what people notice after doing this is they literally walk around and they're not triggered the way they used to be by the situations that occur. They don't feel like they're the effect of things anymore. It's like they walk around and they're like, wow, I'm judging me less. Wow, I've got more of a sense of space. Wow, it's just easier. Like you'll be in a situation that used to trigger you 6 months ago and all of a sudden it doesn't anymore. That's what this creates. And you're just different. And sometimes you realize it came from Access Consciousness. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you just go live your life and you're like, wow, that was so cool. But what other people around you notice is they go, "What are you doing? Like, have you cut your hair?" It's like, "Have you lost weight?" You're like, "Yeah, but it was hundreds of pounds of psychic weight that it wasn't mine, this baggage that I shouldn't have to carry anymore."
I just wanted to say one thing about judgment, and then I want you to continue, but I had thought that I was doing really well not judging others or myself, and then I learned in one of the Access courses that I took is that compassion and sympathy and altruism and wanting to help everybody are forms of judgment. And at first I fought that, and then I realized, of course they are. And that's what I want at Pot and Pock is this thing that, I feel that I'm responsible for everybody's happiness and saving the world, and I think that being altruistic is such a great thing. And I get that it's a form of, as in Access says, superiority and judgment. So that's what I'm clearing now.
Cool. That's one of the big things. See, one of the things Access does is it's sort of like every sacred cow goes to auction in Access. In other words, auction or slaughter, I'm not sure which. Some of our most deeply held things that we hold on to and fight for are some of the things that are limiting us the most. And so if you look at compassion, if you look at sympathy, if you look at help, all of those basically come from a place of judgment that the person is inferior to you. Now, if you look at caring and kindness and empowerment and contribution, those, because they don't have those same judgments of the superiority of us and the inferiority of somebody else, what those do is those create a space where we can actually empower someone to know that they know, to know they have a different choice, and contribute to them in actually creating that different choice. So let's do this. So all the points of view that you've all bought about superiority, inferiority, compassion, altruism, help, empathy, sympathy, devotion, we destroy and uncreate it, please, so you can just have whatever's true for you. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Okay, so that's one of those interesting concepts because people, if you have that conversation with somebody and they're really, a lot of people look and like you do, they fight it initially because they're like, well, are you saying don't help people? It's like, no. What I'm saying is don't believe that someone does not have choice. Empower them to know that they know. Empower them with choice, but empower them with different choices. Rather than believing that their only choice is the handout you can give, it's sort of like that, if you teach a man to fish, you teach a woman to fish, you teach a person to fish, they will be able to feed themselves for the rest of their lives. If you continually give them fish, they're always dependent on you. So everything we've all done to make others dependent on us rather than empowering them, can we not destroy and uncreate it, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. And one other piece of this, which applies dynamically in the judgment realm, is not only in the judgment realm, but, in the realm of everything, pretty much, every thought, feeling, and emotion and point of view, is what happens is literally 98% of your thoughts, your feelings, and your emotions don't belong to you. They're things you're picking up from the world like a big psychic radio receiver, and then wondering why it feels like you have so much noise in your head and so many people's voices in your head and so much crap in your head. Well, so here's a tool you want to use. You want to ask, who does this belong to? For every thought, feeling, and emotion that you have for 3 days. And at the end of 3 days, you'll literally walk around like you're in a walking, talking meditation. You just go, who does this belong to? And if it lightens up at all, it's not yours. It's kind of like that thing that I was saying with the clearing statement that I used also, which is, you're walking along, you're having a great day, and all of a sudden you get hit with this fear about something or this anger about something or this fear or anger that's not about anything, and all of a sudden you're thinking, oh, my God, what happened? What happened to make me angry? And then you look for the reason, and when you look for the reason, you find it. Well, what if you're just way more aware and way more psychic than you've ever given yourself credit for? And what if what's happening is you're picking it up from somebody around you? 98% of your thoughts, your feelings, and your emotions don't actually belong to you. They actually belong to people around you.
You better be careful who you hang around with.
Yeah, exactly. Have you ever noticed when you hang around heavy people, you get heavier?
Yeah. absolutely. And
I've
not
noticed that
necessarily
too.
just in weight, but you just feel heavier when people are heavy about everything in life. You get heavy about everything in life.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was referring to. I didn't even think about the weight part. I forgot that meant heavy too. Shows you where my mind is. It's more in this
and it shows
other
you where
realm
my
of things.
mind is.
Exactly. That's great. But that's the thing is, if you notice that, why is that? Well, it's because you pick up on their vibration. And it's literally all of these things, whether we try to delineate it into fear, anger, sadness, or judgment, or whatever we try to delineate it into, in actuality, what's really going on is it's a vibration. It's got a vibration. It's got an energy to it. It's got a resonance frequency to it. And so we've been in training to other people's resonance frequencies of limitation rather than being the resonance we could be that would allow us to vibrate with things like the plants and the animals and the trees and the planet. So let's try this. So everybody listening, so what resonance frequencies are you using to create the judgments of you were choosing? Everything that is, times a godzillion, will you destroy and uncreate it, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. And what resonance frequencies are you choosing that you truly could be refusing? That if you refused it, would allow you to be the happiness you truly be. Everything that is and everything that doesn't allow it, will you destroy and uncreate it, please?
Yep.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. So what resonance frequencies are you choosing that you truly could be refusing, that if you would refuse it and refuse to buy it as yours, would allow you to be the happiness you truly be? Everything that is, times a godzillion, will you destroy and create it, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Okay. That's being kind of cool.
That felt really good. And I just want to say to all of our listeners that if you're trying to understand or logically analyze all of those clearings that Dain just did, don't worry because they work whether your conscious mind can grok them or not.
Yes, and they actually work even better because your conscious mind, or what I would call your cognitive mind, because I don't think our minds are conscious at all. I think we, the beings, are conscious,
right.
and our mind, I think our mind is actually something that limits it, and we've somehow identified that cognitive equals conscious, but it doesn't. Even if you look at them up in a dictionary, they don't equal. So I think it works better because your cognitive mind can't stop it. Your mind is like, wait, what just went by me? I didn't, wait, and it starts feeling, because your mind will continue to create the solidity that you grew up around. It'll continue to create the resonance frequencies that you grew up around as a kid, as though that is your reality and your only choice for reality, because that's when you learn to put all that information in that filing cabinet that your mind now checks for everything. And because of that, your mind actually limits the different possibilities that are available rather than contributes to greater possibilities.
You know, I just love the distinctions that you all make with these words. You know, it isn't your conscious mind, it's your cognitive mind. And that was so brilliant. And I have another, I just want to take this one step further. So when you say that if a thought or a feeling or emotion, you know, if it fits into our reality, then it must be ours, but it isn't. So do we have to destroy and do the whole clearing statement every time we notice that something is maybe not be ours, or is there another way we could get rid of it more quickly?
Well, so the two things. One is if you ask, who does this belong to? If it lightens up, it's not yours. And if you'll do that for 3 days, at the end of 3 days, you'll walk around like you're in a walking, talking meditation. Just asking and noticing when it lightens up. If it lightens up, it's not yours. So you go, who does this belong to? If it lightens up, it's truly not yours. Just return it to sender. You don't have to know who the sender is, and you're not going to hurt them by giving it back to them. You'll actually give them the chance to become aware of what's been going on in their world that they were never able to figure out because you keep taking it away.
Oh, wow. Okay. Because I thought that, why would you return it to somebody if it's like a yucky ball of yuck? Why would you want to return it to somebody? But if you return it to them, if you take it away from them, they'll never be able to see how it's not serving them.
Yeah, exactly. And there are lots of people out there looking to try to find where that energy is that feels like they can't get to. If you're aware of it, so you're trying to make it better in their world, and you keep taking it away, they can't ever get to it. So it's actually a gift when you return it to sender.
Oof, that is so powerful. I just understood that for the first time. Thank you for that. I always thought it was so mean to give it back.
I know. Like, how could you do that to people who are already unhappy? I know.
Exactly. So I get that now. But you know why I think I got it? This is so profound, Dain, because when we did the clearing statements a few minutes ago, I cleared out this thing about thinking that compassion and sympathy and altruism was such a good thing. And then we cleared it, and then for the first time I was able to see that it's okay to give them the yuck back.
Cool. Oh, that's wonderful. That is so great. And that right there, Deborah, is exactly how it works. You'll clear something about this other thing that you finally get to this willingness to have be different because you have a different awareness of how it works. You do this pod and pocking, which is basically, in essence, letting go of your fixed points of view about anything. And then all of a sudden, this whole new awareness comes into your world, and it changes your life. And then it's like, oh, my gosh. So you have this, the first thing we pod and pocked about the sympathy, empathy, devotion changes your world. And then we get here, and then you can have this awareness in a totally different way, and that changes your world and opens it up more. And now, a few minutes from now, there's going to be another awareness you have, and it opens it up even more. And in this way, one of the things I love about Access is it does exactly that. It keeps growing and growing and growing. It's like consciousness is the gift that keeps on giving, which is so cool.
It is so incredibly cool. That was just amazing. That was just amazing how that happened because, like I say, I have heard this return to sender with consciousness for as long as I think the first time I interviewed you, I heard it for the first time or maybe from friends before that, and I just got it because I cleared what was blocking me from being able to be that. And so this is like very, very exciting. And speaking of being that, can you talk I know that our time is almost up, but I got to just slip this in. Can you talk a bit more about being you? What does that mean? I mean, how can I not be me?
Well, basically it's like this. We grow up, and because we're aware of everybody else's thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and their projections, and their judgments, and their points of view, we oftentimes try to fit into those more than even ever trying to find out what's true for us. Because we're like psychic little SpongeBobs from the time we're little kids, and we look out at the world and we're like, well, how do we do it here? Okay, so I'm going to reach my energetic feelers into people's worlds and learn how to do what it is here and how they function here. And so you reach into mom's world and dad's world, and you literally pick up all their thoughts, feelings, and emotions and points of view, even though nobody's ever told you that you do this, and then you become a little product of mom and dad. And then by the time you're a teenager, you start resisting and reacting to your mom and dad, but who have you already become? So we don't have much clue about what it is to be us, but there are clues that we can get if we'll look for them. Like I mentioned earlier, which, one of which is like the way it is when you go out in nature and you feel like the weight of the world finally comes off of your shoulders. That's the way it could be to be in any situation. You could walk around any situation in the world with a sense of peace, and also with the sense that if something is not that, or if something is not joyful, or if something is not happy, it can be changed. And so that lightness that we spoke about at the very beginning, where what's true for you makes you feel lighter, it's like literally what happens is you start to become more acquainted with what it is to be you, and that's not a definition. It's more of an energy. It's more of like a space of being, if you will, that isn't defined but is malleable and flowable. But the more you get a sense of what it's like to be you, the more you can be truly like present as you in every situation. So what it does is it gives you a sense of peace. It gives you an awareness of what you'd like to create in your life. And even more than that, it gives you sort of an overall compass that allows you to head in this direction, which is so different than most people on the planet have right now. Most people get to a certain point and they're like, oh my God, I've spent 25 years doing something I hate. Well, imagine being able to be aware from this day forward of what was actually true for you and actually starting to create a life so that 25 years from now, you actually have a life that you love. And not that it takes 25 years, but every step along the way is a life that you love. That, for me, is what it's like to be you.
Well, that's for me. I'll take it. I think everybody listening is saying, I'll take that.
Yeah,
And not
and
having,
me too.
and life is a terrible thing to waste too. So let's stop. And that is being us from this point forward. It sounds really quite delicious. So thank you for that, and thank you for explaining that. Now, I am really excited. I'm curious what's possible for people who are listening here. And I would love it if you could just share with us maybe a couple of the amazing turnarounds that you've seen from people who have applied what you teach, maybe amazing changes that you've noticed from people who started being them. Can you share a few with us?
Wow, absolutely. I mean, and the interesting thing is there's just so many. I mean, it truly is the coolest thing in the world for me. It's the greatest gift I get is to hear these stories of transformations that people have had as a result of this work. It's like I was working with oh boy, I'm going to cry. There's this sweet, beautiful young woman. I was doing actually a Being You Changing the World class in Stockholm. And this girl was 17, so she was in high school, and she was being homeschooled. And to look at this girl was beautiful. I mean, a beautiful being, a beautiful countenance. I mean, there was just everything about her was like truly beautiful. And she was kind and caring and gentle. And she was being homeschooled because she had been bullied so bad at school that she had such a low self-image that she thought there must surely be something wrong with her. And thought she was a terrible person. And so I bring her up on the table and I start using the access tools, asking questions, using the clearing statement, using this ESB energy. And she sits down in her chair after, and this was up in front of class. I work on people in these classes, and this was up in front of class, and she goes down and she sits in her chair and she has a totally different look on her face. But I looked at her and I thought, wow, I wonder what changed in her world. She comes in the next day and she's crying and she grabs the microphone. Now, prior to this, when she had the microphone, she couldn't even speak hardly. She grabs the microphone and she says, I would just like to say thank you. She's like, I thought I was a bad person. She's like, I thought that I had no value, and I thought that all the things that all these mean people said to me were actually true. She said, you know what? Now I realize that they're actually the ones with the problem. And it saddens me to think of how terrible their worlds must be for them to believe they need to be that mean to someone. She said, but you know what? I'm thinking of actually going back to school, and I know now that I won't ever be the effect of these people again. And I was like, oh my God, really? Okay. And it's just, to see these kind of changes. I had a lady, a couple who came to one of the classes I was delivering, and they sent me an email after, and they said, you know what? They said, we were on the verge of breaking up because the level of judgment that had grown between us in the time we'd been together, we thought it was insurmountable. We were actually going to the workshop not thinking that it would change things, but hoping that it would just make our breakup easier, because prior to that we wanted to kill each other. They said, I just want you to know that we are happier together than we have ever been before. Thank you for running the processes that you did, and thank you for showing us that a happy, joyful relationship is actually a possibility that we can choose, because before this, we didn't have the tools.
Wow. Okay. That having been said, I think that we want to hear what your special offer is that you created for us. So I highly encourage everyone to go to Dain's special offer page right now and, of course, to experience it for yourself. So what you can do is simply click on the special offer button that's on this page, or you can go to www.LiveBigMedia.com limitless.com/being, BEING. So, Dain, can you let everyone know what they'll find there?
Yeah, absolutely. It would be my pleasure. The first thing is a class that I just recently created with a group of Access Consciousness facilitators called Why Consciousness. Have you noticed things are picking up in pace, Deborah?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And, and that can be really sort of exciting, and it can also be terrifying for people, and, where people don't know necessarily what to do and what's going on. What this is it's an invitation for why you would want to choose consciousness. Most people think if their eyes are open, they're conscious. But consciousness is something totally different than that. It's where you literally allow yourself to have an awareness of everything that is and everything that could be contributed to you and every way in which you can be a contribution to the world. And it's what has changed my life in the last 13 years, but even more so than that, the thousands of people that have used these tools, it's like it's the consciousness that is the thing that will continuously give to us. And the only time you ever create a difficulty in your life is when you function from less than the consciousness you are. Well, so this class is called Why Consciousness, and literally it's like, why consciousness? You really get an awareness of why that's actually of value and why you would actually want to choose it. With that, there's a loop of verbal processes, and the loop is an hour long. And basically, what it is me running these clearing statements like I just ran, only there's lots of them. And the more you listen, the more change you get. I used to do subliminal tapes, and I'd listen to them at night while I slept, and I was trying to change my money situation, I was trying to change my unhappiness, and I was trying to change my sense of powerlessness, and yet none of those things ever changed. Now, I listen to these Access Consciousness processing loops, and things change. You can literally listen to it while you sleep, because you, the being, are present even when your body sleeps. You, the being, doesn't require sleep. Your body does. So what it is accessing you, the being, so that you can undo the limitations that you placed upon you that don't have to be there anymore. That's what the processes are for. Also, one of the other things that people have told me is, I play these processes at work. I used to hate my work environment. Now people are coming up and offering me donuts and being nice to me, and I'm like, wow. And I say, what do you attribute that to? They say, well, two things. Number one, I'm making different choices, and I'm actually using these tools at work, but I'm also playing all of the MP3s that I have of yours, and I know it's changing the energy of the people around me. I was like, wow, okay, cool. So that's another use of these things, too, that I wanted to let people know, because I hadn't thought about it before that. The next is a class I did called Being You, Changing the World. It's an intro class, so it's a 3-hour class, and I hope you like to laugh. Now, please know I'm very irreverent. I've been quite reverent with you, Deborah, which I'm very impressed about and somewhat surprised. But usually I'm pretty darn irreverent and do my best to present whatever I can from this place that actually allows the humor of it to be seen. Because I think we're so missing in humor. It's interesting because from my point of view, laughter changes far more than tears, because it's got a much higher intensity of energy and much less control to it. And so what I do is, if I can get people to laugh, I will definitely do so. So this particular class is a 3-hour class that I delivered in Edmonton, and it literally is an exploration into the possibilities of what it could be like to be you with the energies that you always knew were available, and I'm inviting you to be them. I'm sort of like putting them in your lap and also inviting you to laugh at just the way the universe could be and the way the universe is showing up. So, and in addition to that, the fourth element on there is, it's called Choice the Source for Living. One of the things that I found is that choices are like our primary capacity, and most people have no idea what it is, and they have no idea how to access it. On this first call, I gave people some tools for actually knowing how to choose. Like literally, when you're like, okay, what do I choose? What do I choose? What do I choose? Literally tools for knowing how to choose. Oh, and I want to give people another tool right now, which is, if I choose this, what will my life be like in the next 5 years? And just get the energy of it. If I choose this, what will my life be like in the next 5 years? Ask it about the package. Just get the energy of what your life will be like. You know whether it will contribute to you. And the people that I want to work with, the people that I hope get the package, are the people that actually desire it. The people that get, yes, this will contribute to my life, because those are the fun people to work with. So you want to ask for any choice, what will my life be like in 5 years if I do this? And just get the energy. And what will my life be like in 5 years if I don't do this? And get the energy of that. And whichever one is lighter is the one that will create more lightness in your life. Okay, so along with this telecall series, there's also another loop of processes that opens up and starts to unlock where you have not been able to choose, where you feel like you've made choices that haven't worked so you won't do it again, where you've decided that you don't have choice and everybody else does, or where you'd like to choose and have the capacity to do something different but don't see a way to do it. So these processes start unlocking all of those areas so that you start having more choice. Because when you have more choice, you create totally different possibilities. So all of these so far, if you were to just get this, it's like would contribute so much change to your life. One of the last elements here is a class that I created called the Symphony of Possibilities. This is the beginning. And the advanced class that I do is now called Symphony of Possibilities, and it truly is an embracing of the symphony that the universe is and the symphony it will bestow upon us if we allow that to be. And most of us know it's there. Most of us feel it. We can sense it, but we don't know how to access it. We don't know how to live it. There's an energy running through this class that is truly about accessing that and living it and getting to be it. And it also starts exploring your capacities with energies, your capacities to actually start working with energy to allow it to start changing things for you and for other people. So it truly is an invitation to you getting to be in concert with the symphony that the universe is, to actually be in connection with the possibilities that the universe has available to contribute to you. So those are the biggie elements, and then there are also 3 extra resources that I provide for people. One is a quick start guide to starting using the tools of access that has certain things about questions, clearing statement, et cetera. Who does this belong to? Some of the stuff that we've talked about today, some of it, but also like how to get started with it, real short PDF download. Also, there's the intro and first chapter of my book, Being You, Changing the World. And I've had people send me emails saying, Dain, I don't know how you did it, but I listened to this chapter and I feel like afterwards I have me again. I always listen to it when I'm in a rut or in a glut, and it changes it. I'm like, okay, cool. And then also the access clearing statement. There's an audio of me explaining the clearing statement. It takes about 20 minutes. So I go into the details of everything we weren't able to cover earlier, but also how you can start to use it for you. And there you go.
This is just off the charts, amazing. That each of these classes, when it says, value $150, that's what people pay to attend these classes is $150, and you're giving us like 5 of them, right? Or 4 of them. I don't know how, and one's $97. This is like absolutely amazing. And I also just have to make one comment, and that is the audio of your introduction, first chapter of the book. I actually was at a kind of a health spa with some friends, some girlfriends, and we were in this hot tubbish type of thing, and I said, okay, I'm going to play this, and they were just that alone completely changed their lives. Absolute truth, changed their life.
That's so
really.
cool.
Yeah, It was very cool.
So
thank you for this amazing, amazing package. And I just want to tell everybody again, if you want to see the special offer, all you need to do is click on the special offer button that's on this page, or you can go to LiveBigMedia.com/being, BEING. So 2 more quick questions, and then I'm going to let you go. One is, what have you seen are the immediate benefits that people get from really any of these classes, and then the long-range, most common benefits that you see?
Well, I'd say, so much. But first, people actually tell me that, wow, I don't feel like I'm alone on this planet anymore. I feel like I found somebody who finally gets me, who understands how different I am. And so they start to come out of the wrongness of them, usually very quickly. And then the other thing is they start to realize, wait a minute, if I'm not wrong, then they start to come out of wrongness. They start to also come out of depression, and they start to have a sense of happiness that is from within rather from without. Okay, and I noticed that starting immediately for people. And they also get a sense of, wow, I can start to change these things that I've wanted to change for so long, and I can be everything I've known I was, and it's actually okay. So they get a sense of permission to actually be them and come out of the wrongness of them. And as far as long-term goes, you want to change it, it's there. In other words, I would say probably the biggest thing people get is a sense of gratitude for them and everything around them. But long-term, I see people's finances change. I see their level of happiness change. I see them creating relationships that are no longer abusive and destructive. I see them actually creating jobs that they like. I mean, long-term, the sky isn't even the limit. It's this thing where it truly does exponentialize continuously. And what I guess what I would say is what people get long-term more than anything else is a sense of peace and ease being them, and a sense and an awareness that they don't have to be the effect of anything any longer, and they truly can change everything, and that the universe truly does have their back and will support them.
Wow. And I just have to add that I know that it's true, because I have seen friends of mine, I've just taken the basic courses, but I've seen friends of mine who have really dove into the world of access, and I don't even recognize these people anymore. It's their lives have opened up so dramatically, their happiness, their success, their finances, and it just continues. It's like, how does it get any better than this? It just keeps getting better and better. So I have seen it with my very own eyes. And before we sign off, is there anything else that you want to share with everyone before we go?
Well, I would just like you all to know, please know, whatever change it is you're looking for, it truly does exist. Please use this tool of what's true makes you feel lighter. A lie is always heavier for you. And start choosing your life according to that. You truly are a gift. And there truly is a gift and a number of gifts that you are here to be and bring to this world. Is now the time for you to know it? Is now the time for you to be it? And what if you, truly being you, are the gift and the change this world requires? From my point of view, you are. Thanks, Deborah.
Thank you, Dain. And what else can I say? You said it all. So thank you to everyone for taking the time to be here with me and with Dr. Dain Heer. And I look forward to when we will all be together again. This is Deborah Poneman. Have a wonderful rest of your day.